promoting businesses and organizations to help them reach their full potential, lighting the path to the success of your business, enhancing the lives of our listeners by talking about things that matters most, helping you to shine your light emotionally, mentally, spiritually, socially, and physically, spreading positive vibes. You've got it locked, and you're listening to Lyte Vibrations, brought to you by Lyte Communications right here on CBN Radio 90.9 FM. And now your host and our director, Natasha Letza.
Hello, you've got it locked and you're listening to Lyte Vibrations. Here chilling with me, Tasha T, aka Roxy, and our guest today, Lee. Welcome to the program, Lee.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. As you know, Lyte Vibrations, we're all about raising the liberty of the people, spreading positive vibes and, wise counsel to help us live our best life. What you got for us today?
I think today I would like to talk about unforgiveness, and not only from a spiritual perspective, a physical perspective, or even in relationships like a husband and wife or girlfriend and boyfriend, but parents and children. That unforgiveness spirit that we sometimes have in us is very dominant, and it can be very crucial to the body and to your livelihood. So I would like to speak about that today.
A very wonderful topic, and I like the fact that you want to cover different sectors across the whole being, spiritually, socially, parents to children, spouse. That's awesome. And when you said that it would take over your life, unforgiveness breeds a lot of maliciousness, a lot of evil. It breeds murder. It breeds a lot of things. So where do you want to go first?
Well, that is true. I think I want to start with, certain people would say that you cannot truly forgive if you're not spiritual, if you don't have that Christian background. Because, the Bible does say that God forgives us our sins, and He casts them as far as the east is from the west. He remembers them no more. But when you're talking about human beings, and you have been hurt in a relationship, whether, like I said, from the parental standpoint or the husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend standpoint, you don't have that godlike spirit where you cast it from the east as far as the east is from the west. And so you might think you forgive a person, and then what you see manifesting and later on in the relationship is still that unforgiveness, that is still that that you have not dealt with. And you go forward in life, and you go through life just with it being a burden on you.
Well, definitely a burden when you're holding somebody hostage for what they may or may have done in the past. And I could see how it probably could be a little bit easier to forgive someone, with your spiritual background intact, and believing in a higher power, and the forgiveness that higher power has for us, for all the transgressions that we have done. And I could see that making sense. And even for those persons who may not have a solid, religious background, forgiveness, I think, is a trait in some people where that they would actually, it's innate with them to have a forgiving heart. And I think these are the people that, get taken advantage of in life because they're considered more soft and more docile. But it's definitely a trait. If you got it, you have it. If you don't, you don't. And with your spiritual, with spiritual guidance on your side, you can learn in some respect or the other. But as far as you say, what is true forgiveness now? Because if I did you something, you claim you forgive me, and then you're still grappling with it, have you really forgiven?
And that's exactly my point exactly. And I would agree with you that there are some persons that tend to be a little bit, that they just have that forgiving nature, and they don't really, I could use myself as an example. You don't really remember. The stuff happens in the moment, you do remember, and then when you go forward, it's like, okay, I've forgiven you, and you really do forget. You really do forget once you say, I have forgiven you. But then there are some times where like I said, because the topic is unforgiveness, you cannot get whatever it is out of your mind, and it penetrates the mind, it penetrates the heart, the thoughts, the conscious, the very being. And to me, that's a dangerous ground to be on. That's why I wanted to speak on that unforgiveness topic today, because I believe we have a lot of angry persons in our society, and it stems in large part because we are carrying around some type of hurt. Some type of hurt, maybe from, like I said, your parents. Maybe my parents did this when I was growing up and I can't forgive them. And you carry around this, and it makes you sick, it makes you bitter, it makes you angry, it makes you stagnant. You almost cannot, move forward. So I think we need to address that spirit, call it for what it is, and then try to, move forward from that.
Okay, well, start us off from the spiritual umbrella. We're going to talk spiritually about how, we could get into a habit, or how do you forgive on a spiritual plane, and then we could move into more the dynamics of relationships, because I think forgiveness has a lot to do with the dynamics of, who you're forgiving, whether or not they ask you for forgiveness, whether or not they repented, because the Bible says repent your sins one to another. So if I have transgressed about you or towards you, I should come and tell you that, I've transgressed, this is what I've done, I am sorry, blah, 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 and then it's up to you to forgive me. But there's a lot of times you see where you on your own trying to forgive somebody to take the pressure off of yourself, because that person ain't even come to the pump and say, I did you this, I did you that, I am sorry. So you're trying to lift it off of your chest just for your own health's sake and sanity. And, that's different dynamics there altogether when we're addressing this unforgiveness.
But as you said, you wanted to start out with the spiritual perspective of this forgiveness. And really, the person that has transgressed against you is not the person that you would expect to come to you and say, I beg you for forgiveness. Forgiveness is something that's coming from the individual, from yourself. So you don't have to wait. If, say, for instance, Tasha, you did me something, you did me some evil, and I'm carrying it around. I don't have to wait for you to come and say, you know what? I know that I have you up in my craw. And so from the spiritual perspective, I would come to you and say, I have been carrying around this malice, this hatred, this whatever, because of whatever, forgive me. So it's not a matter of a reciprocation. It's something to keep you in balance with God, because we're talking about the spiritual perspective of it. Because liken it to how many times we have sinned. And as sinners, He is faithful and just He is faithful and just to forgive us our sins. And we don't even sometimes go to Him and pray and say nothing. I mean, to say whatever, we have transgressed against Him. It's like when David had, taken Bathsheba and killed the husband. When he was confronted with his sin from the prophet, he said, against you and you alone, God, have I sinned. And he went down on his knees, and that's where we got the Psalms from. So forgive me of my sins there. So he was asking, he was saying sorry and forgive me my sins. He was a transgressor. So we don't need to have, you do me something, and I don't need you, Tasha, to come to me and say, Lee, can you forgive me? And then I say, okay, I'll think about it, or I'll forgive you, or whatever the case may be. I have to be the one to reach out. And that's, to me, the spiritual background there.
And well, I see why that's the spiritual background, because that's a tall order. Because if you leave wrong me, I ain't coming to you asking you nothing. I ain't saying I forgive you, and you ain't even come and beg me pardon for what you do. So that's a next level. That's a next level thing you bring it to the table, Lee. So how do we put ourselves in a place where we can do that?
But that's where love comes in, because love covers a multitude of sins. Remember now, you may have done something to me, but remember, I am carrying malice towards you for that thing you did to me. So I am sinful as well. that's why I am coming to you and say, I'm begging you pardon here. Can you forgive me? Because I every time I see you, I walk in the other way. This thing happened maybe 20, 30 years ago, and I remember it like it happened yesterday.
With the same emotions.
Exactly. And like I said, it generates within you stress, within you as a person stress. So it's not even just a matter of the dictate from God, because we are still speaking spiritual here. It's not even just a matter of that. It's really for a matter of your own cleansing as well. And you don't get to that point, like I say, overnight. Because, we've had this and we've had topics like this in church where they talk about you are supposed to forgive. I said, yes, I know we are supposed to forgive, but don't mean that you do me something and I'm going to forgive you. Okay, I forgive you. Sometimes you have to meditate. Sometimes you have to fast. Sometimes you have to take that to the Lord in prayer for a long time before you can really actually get to that place where you genuinely go to that person and say, you know what, I've been carrying a lot of hatred and malice for you. Forgive me, please.
So question now, if you have someone up in your craft, right, and then through this journey you find yourself that you could probably release them out of your craft, meaning that, okay, when you see them, you could walk in the same path, you might could even say good morning, your pressure is not going up, you're not having any divisive thoughts, you've cleansed that. I haven't come to you and say, well, I forgive you because I've been carrying around all of these emotions. No, ain't none of that. But is where you probably would have released it to yourself and say, okay, I don't hate this person anymore, but I definitely still don't want, to have nothing to do with them. But if they drop down in front of me tomorrow, I would help them. Is that a form of, releasing that unforgiveness, or is it to be totally forgiving, you have to kind of try to mend back a relationship with that person?
I don't think you have to try to mend back the relationship. The thing is for you not to be carrying any ill feelings in your heart for somebody. So like you say, if you drop down in front of me, I can call the ambulance. You understand? But there are some people, like with unforgiveness with the heart, they don't care if you drop down in front of them and now they're stepping over you. And then to yourself, that's not even human being behavior. Come and think on anything further. And I know situations. The reason why I want to talk about this topic as well is I know situations out there in the community where, for instance, a parent to a child, where the parent may have abused the child growing up, and things have happened, and then the child is all grown up now, but they're still carrying, and it's hurt. They're carrying this hurt, they're carrying this anger, they're carrying this unforgiveness against the parent, and the parent might be sick, and then other persons or other family members might think, you should come and visit, and you should come, and that person said, over my dead body, the only thing I will come to do is come and tell you about yourself, and those type things. But you could see the hurt and the anger inside of the person, and to be free of all that is to release it in forgiveness. That's the only way to me that you could be free. Now, if you say, you know what, I don't have this person up anymore, they did what they did or whatever, I have forgiven them, I don't need to go and visit you 10 days a week, or you understand what I'm saying? It's just released out of my heart and I could move on.
Okay, I could buy into that strategy, and that paradigm where it's not necessarily bridging that gap that would have occurred, but just basically a peace of mind for yourself and not always reacting to the person. So that divine, that's what you're calling the divine forgiveness, right? Okay, so let's try to bring it closer. You started out talking a bit about the parent-to-child relationship, and normally when someone is hurt, especially as a child, those hurts, they never forget. I'm not sure why, but those are the hurts. If you live to be 150 years old, when your memory gone, you could remember when you were a child or a teen. And I don't know if you could if you have any insight as to why, those types of hurts from such a young age leave such a lasting effect. And also, as you said, the implications or the ramifications for you as a parent, if your child have you up in your corner and you turn to your old age and you see the effects right now. So many people in these old people home or in assisted living kind of stuff, and they have children, and the children they ain't studying them, and that's real. And maybe some of it is greed and all of that stuff, but some of it is from childhood hurts. So I mean, what can you share with us regarding that, and just probably trying to help persons, because if you're done in that, you're done in that. But the up and coming ones, young parents, and so how could you assist them in ensuring that whatever we're doing out here, we're not hurting our kids to cause them to have this long-term negative effect from when they were children?
Well, that is a good question, and that one I don't know if I could fully answer. What I have seen is that, as you say, and I think the textbook have also said, anything that you do for 21 days is it's a norm. That's the habit. Mm-hmm. And so as children, and then you learn from baby to I think about 12. That's when you actually learn. Anything over that is like, you can learn, yes, but the most of what you intake is when you're a child. And so if you grow up with this negativity, this name calling, these licks and all of that from when you are a child, it does tend to stay in your psyche somewhere. And like you said, you touched on, a lot of parents are in old folks home. The children don't care about them. Now a lot of it has to do with how you were raised and what type of parent. You might have been that absent parent, you might have been that abusive parent, you might have been that type of parent that the child now as an adult remembers and decide, listen, you didn't do for me and I ain't doing for you, because the hurt was that much. But I think as parents, what we ought to do, and I know back in the old day, you were a parent, and had no let's talk with the child, is what I said goes. But now it's a little bit modern. So I believe in what I do. I have 2 kids. And what I do with my kids, I tell my kids, I don't hide anything from my kids at all. If I did this and they ask me, I'm going to volunteer any information. But if they ask, I'm going to be honest with them. And there are certain things, if they bring to my attention and they say, well, Mommy, remember when you did this when I was 2? I don't remember, because you don't. But for their sake, I think you could say, you know what? I am sorry. I didn't mean it in that aspect. Don't hold it against me. Have those type of conversations, because don't care what you do as a parent. And I have learned, especially a mother, you could think you have done the best, and it's never good enough where kids are concerned.
Definitely.
But if you keep that line of communication open with them, well, tell me about, and you talk about what were your hurts, what you feel I could have done, and you kind of get a chance to explain and say sorry, I think it helps to mend. But if you had a parent who brutalized you, and I mean, back in the day, parents we probably ain't get that kind of blows that people of an older generation, that they used to kill you with blows. They beat you with rope, saw, anything they got their hand on. And if they did that to maybe you and not other children, you of the same parent, maybe you feel like you've been signaled out. Maybe it's been like, it's something against me. You carry that, and if at no point, and still as an adult, you may have said, you know what, I'm going to just forget that. But then other things that parent does as an adult still kind of lends itself to that treatment as a child. And so you keep it, and it manifests, and it keeps boiling and boiling and boil over until you don't even want to see the parent. And to me, that's very sad, because going back to the spiritual, it says, honor thy father and thy mother, thy days will be long upon the earth. But if you don't even want to see your parent because you have all this unforgiveness in your heart for them, it's very sad.
And you know what? Some of it could be too that this generation will be spoiling children at the same time, because you may have come up in that regime where you were beaten with stars and your parents were just brutal. Hey, don't ask me nothing, jump when I say jump, don't even ask me how high jump till I tell you stop, and for them, I guess it worked to a certain extent. And for now, you may have came up under that now, and then you have kids now, and all of a sudden, you want to have the most conversations. Like you said, have a conversation and tell them your guts. And at the same time, now, there's still no law. So we went from one extreme to another, where, at first we were really regulated, and now this is a liberal. I see somebody post on Facebook the other day, can you go in your child's room? What? Room in your house that you paying a bill for? Seriously? That's a question to be posted. But these are things that are happening where you try to so much to get away from what you receive or overcompensate for your child, and at the end of the day, you and your parents end up in the same home, because no matter you what you did for the children is still never enough, and they're gonna find something to feel hurt about to let you
Tasha, I think you misunderstood me a bit there, because I am definitely of it. What it kill you made you stronger, and you can do two things or maybe three things when you grow up in an abusive sector. Either you become an abuser yourself, you go very lenient, or so it's either you're an abuser or you go very lenient with the kids. But no, when I said I had that conversation with my kids, they're not kids any longer. I mean that they are now adults. That ain't the kind of conversation I would have with no 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 12-year-old. Nobody under my roof. I'm talking about they're now adults. And as adults, they could come and say, Mommy, you remember this and you remember that. That is when these conversations happen, not as no child. Because children are children.
That's right.
But parents fail, to me, to see this, to shift with the shifting of the age of the child. We still call them children, but they're 25 and 26, buck man and woman, and we still treating them like child. But if your buck man or woman child comes to you with that type of conversation, don't shun them.
Right.
Listen to what they have to say, and then explain and say, you know what, I did the best I could with what I had and whatever. And but have that conversation. I think that helps to ease that hurt or that pain or that suffering that they may have had within them, that will not land you in that old folks home. And then how they see you treat your parents
is a plus too.
Is going to go a long way in how they will treat you.
Definitely. That really, so I'm glad you clarified some of that, because really and truly it is a beautiful topic, because it's so much hurt and so much people don't have that forgiveness in the heart, whether just people love to hold grudges, like, okay, we just moving towards the relationship type unforgiveness, sometimes where, I used to always say, because if I love you, I could like you. So because we break up for whatever reason, I don't automatically hate you. So it seems like that's the norm now, from time and you're done or whatever, or some transgression happened in a relationship. Short of abuse. We ain't talking about abusive relationship, because relationships break up for a variety of things. So if we break up, we go away. I mean, we don't have to hold up each other for the transgressions of the relationship. Now we in a relationship, you're my husband, I'm your wife, and we going through something. You may have told me, okay, you cheat on me, or whatever, how you deal with something, and I necessarily, okay, I don't want to leave the marriage, I want to forgive you, I want us to move on. Is that something that could happen? Is that possible? And how do we get to that?
I think that is very possible, but let me just go back and kind of touch on, if you love me, that comment that you made. To me, you could love somebody and don't like them none at all. Because just in reference to your siblings, and even your husband or your wife. Because I have said in relationships before, listen, you couldn't be my friend. Because there are certain traits within that person that you can't confide in and you can't whatever. So you come in and say, I don't like you, but I love you. So you can love somebody and don't even like them in a relationship.
Really?
You really can, yes.
Wow.
You really can. But if it comes to where, okay, I want to work on the marriage because you've cheated and you've come to me, that's a process. You can't come to me. I've had, like I said, been in a relationship where this person was ever perpetrating the same sin, let's say, and then the next morning, oh, sorry. After a while, you're not sorry. What are you asking for sorry about? And because I'm the type of person, because we touched on where there's soft-hearted and then there's a spiritual person, and mine too. Men, I would say, you know what? All right, let me just throw it away. We've been starting afresh. But after a while, you can't say that so easily. And after a while, it really does take, it's a process. If you want to keep the marriage or the relationship going, you're going to have to kind of lay down some ground rules. You're going to have to kind of tell me where you're going to be. You're going to have to tell me, call in, check in, those type things so that I could build back my trust in you.
No, you see, that's the hostage statement. Every jailer going to tell you that. To me, I think that once you lose trust in a relationship,
You could get it back.
you might as well let her go.
No, I disagree.
You disagree?
Yes.
Okay, here's why. Because you just started talking about it. So now I come to you and I say I cheat on you, whatever, and I want this thing to work. So now you got me hostage. You're gonna be like, no, well, you gotta check in. I got to see your phone. I need a password. It got all kind of stipulation to build back trust. And 10, 15 years down the road, I ain't no closer to being trusted. But meanwhile, I was a hostage in jail, and that is wrong.
No, that is wrong. That taking it to a whole other level. But what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, like, if you say you're going someplace for a weekend, I mean, you're gonna have to give me some details because you're a proven cheater already. You can't just jump up and say you going someplace, or jump up and you gone. Say you going town to. I'm not gonna try to stop you from doing your activity. But if you say you gone to town and you gone 5 o'clock and now you gonna come back 3 o'clock, some questions have to be asked. I mean, that's a relationship on the norm, even if you have not.
Accountability, definitely.
Even if you have not cheated,
Right.
but even more so, having been cheated, to try to get over. But it's not to hold your husband. I don't want no man phone. I don't go in no man phone, no man wallet, no man. Listen, if you're gonna have to be that kind of spy, get out. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about sometimes cheating occurs for various different reasons, and if it's something where, like I say, you think you can move forward from, is not cheating is like a one-time thing. Some people will be having affairs. That's something totally different.
Right.
You can't be with somebody for 6 months and say cheated. You're having an affair. You in love. You in
A whole other relationship. Yeah.
That's something else to try to process. But if you happen to have some vulnerability and then whatever, and then it was this one night and I was drunk or whatever, that's something different. You can work through that. It's going to take time.
It's going to take time. Well, Lee, it was so good having you on the program today. This half hour just keep up on us. This was a big topic that we tried to address in a half hour. I don't know if we do it justice, but it was definitely great talking to you and, getting this varying perspectives and different, elements of life when it comes to forgiveness and unforgiving, and how you actually try to move forward and release some of the stress, because it's stress when you're walking around with unforgiveness. Final thought?
Yes, unforgiveness is not for the person, it is for you. And I think that's what people have to realize out there, because I have seen unforgiveness, it's a spirit. It is a spirit. I have seen it on people and it's ugly. They have gotten old before the time. It's a very ugly look, and it's not, like I said, it's for the person. It is to release you from all that stress and pressure. It's to release you from killing yourself. So why they should be fancy free out there? Don't even can't think on the reason why you should have them up in your car because they have moved on, and then you back here in jail, so to speak. So the forgiveness is for you, and to me, you live longer and you live a better life. Just not being able to carry any grudges and whatnot for people. But yeah, it's been really fast. I think we ought to address this more in depth another time. But thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you for tuning in to Lyte Vibrations, and don't forget to tune in this time next week as we continue to bring you life-changing information. Until next time, shine your light.